Frank, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, bud. Yeah, I've also thought that before, like, if you record it, people will just get the recording and then now happens and then they don't watch it, that sort of stuff. But I appreciate the people who are on. This is going to be pretty quick because I want to focus on one specific thing and give you some guidance on that. First, thanks for having me on, Frank. And I'm going to jump right into sharing my screen. And I'm going to ask you all to write this down. Okay. So write down. All right. And Frank, what did I always say? I know you and Andrew found it funny. Say smart stuff and people will think you're smart. Right. And that's not necessarily fake it till you make it. There's some truth in that. And I always strive, you were talking about a little earlier, that insecurity that I didn't like all these people knowing more than I did. Like you ever Frank and I have coached football for many, many, many years. You ever go against a team, they're like, oh, snap. Like they're pulling guards, they're countering, you're kind of envious. You get insecure and you're like, what are you going to do? You just going to roll over and take it? Or are you going to start working on an offensive scheme that takes you to the next level? So I want to take you to the next level with something that's very knowledgeable. I would promise you 99% of your clients won't even ever have heard of this. And it's accurate and it's truthful. I still hold a securities license, a few of them, CHFC, CEP, RICP, WMCP, NSSA. I'm not bragging. I'm saying I have a fiduciary responsibility. I treat clients like I would my own mother, which is a good thing. So I'm teaching you something that is true. It's not conspiracy theory. It's not bashing on the stock market. It's truth. So I want you to write that down. Shiller, SHILLER, PE, that's price per earnings ratio. Now, if I ask people here, what's the price per earnings ratio for a stock? People kind of have an idea. I mean, it's in the name, right? It's the price that you pay for earning of a share of that stock. Now, a stock can have 6 billion shares or 600 shares. You just take the number of shares, times it by the share price, and that's the market cap of that company. Okay? So what I'm saying is the price per earnings has always been a metric that people look at. This is getting back down to like the Berkshire Hathaway type approach, where Frank, we would look for, if I was a stock picker, which I'm not, I just buy index funds and high dividend funds. And if I was a stock picker, I'd be looking for a price that's lower to earnings, right? That's a deal. I get more hamburger for less money. Well, what this graph shows is going all the way back to 1870, right? What the price is for the earnings of the stocks within what is essentially the S&P 500. Okay, so are you paying a lot or are you paying a little? The higher the number, the more you're paying. The lower the number, the less you're paying. So I want to take you through this here. So if I was gonna sit down with Frank, and let's say Frank, and this is where I'm talking to clients that are, say, 55 and above, maybe 50 and above. Frank, you're getting ready for retirement, which is scary because that's going to literally be you and I in a little while, right? Like it's no longer hypothetical. It's like, so this is me talking to Frank. If you're getting ready for retirement, I might pose this question. Hey, Frank, have you ever heard of the Shiller PE ratio? And again, 90% of the people, 99% of the people are going to say, I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, let me pull this up. Maybe you got it bookmarked on your Chrome browser or your Safari or whatever, and you pull it up. You say, what this is this is the price that people are paying based on the earnings of a stock, okay? Based on like the S&P 500. And so the higher the number, the more they are overpaying for it. The lower the number, the more of a deal they're getting. That's kind of a rough translation of what it is. Well, I want to point something out to you, Frank. Notice it's all peaks and valleys. When we hit a high in the PE ratio, then we come back with a low, and a high and a low and a high and a low. And that's kind of how the stock market works. But every once in a while, we see influxes of cash, influxes of stocks being bought, what you would call the term overbought. The first one we experienced that had a lot of overbuying was right here in 1929. Can anyone here tell me what happened in 1929? Right? The great stock market crash. The only 3 years that the stock market went down in history. It had global repercussions. Now, Frank, you and I both closed clients that were alive at that time in our previous career. I don't know if those have been phased out, but everyone knows about the great stock market crash of 1929. I mean, we've got people in their 20s here. Heck, there might be teenagers here, and you all have heard of that, right? So that was a stock market crash. Well, now you can see again, there's highs and lows, but then I want to point another one out. The highest ever on record, 2000, April of 2000. What was that? It's actually when I lived in San Francisco in the middle of the dot-com boom. Y'all remember that? Y'all are young enough to remember that. Everything, you put a .com on the end of it, they were buying it. They were funding it. Companies were going public, and it had a dual effect. One, people were overpaying for it back in 2000, and two, the companies weren't making a lot of money. They were being purchased off of what's called blue sky, the idea that they could do something. And a few of those companies did, but many of those companies fizzled, right? Living in San Francisco, there'd be a dude or a gal driving a Ferrari one day, and 6 months later, they're in a Jetta because the stock just crashed, right? So that's another one. And if you're talking to a client, someone who's 55, 60, 65, 70, or whatever, and they're in retirement or getting ready for retirement, you're bringing up some very good issues. And I want to ask you something, right? If I asked Lawrence, if I asked Charles, if I asked Frank, if I said, is this fake? Am I making this up? Is this my opinion, or am I pointing to facts? I'm pointing to facts, right? So we had a peak where it was essentially right around 43 times, right? 43 times price per earning is what people were paying for it. We were paying way too much for stocks. Then it came back down, and we had the banking crisis, right, which dropped the stock market. And then it started coming up, up, up. Then we had COVID, it came down. And now where we're at. You could argue linearly at 38.51 times the price per earning for your average stock in the S&P 500. We are approaching the second highest overpayment for stocks ever. Does that make sense? And I'm going to wrap this up because I want to open up to some Q&A and make sure people are understanding that. The second highest ever. So what's going to happen? I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. What's going to happen now that we point out the Shiller ratio, which is a true thing? And history shows that the Shiller ratio is accurate. It showed that when we climbed up to the highest overpayment of stocks ever, we had a market crash. It showed that again when we showed the highest ever at that time in 2001, we had a market crash. So what does it mean? It means that once we start overpaying for stocks, we can anticipate a crash of some sort. That's what history shows us. Where are we today? Today, we are right about the second highest amount that we're paying per stocks ever. And here's other factors that you want to consider. And Frank, this is where I think it really gels for people. Why are we so overbought in the stock market? Well, the number one factor is because it's really the only place to put your money. It's the only place that people are aware of, right? We've got Robinhood now. We've got, of course, Vanguard and E-Trade and all these platforms, right? Fidelity has this really cool thing that one of my kids got on where you can buy an index fund for zero expense ratio, zero cost, and as little as $1. They're just looping people in, and that's great. Frank, if it's our kids, I want them to invest in the stock market. When the market goes down, they're going to get more shares. The market's a great place to build wealth. I say this every time. I'm a patriot. I'm a capitalist. I believe in the U.S. stock market. But I also know its volatility. And I also know how to look at the Shiller ratio and say, this is a concern. Because if we are putting all this money in the stock market, overpaying for it, why and what could change that? And I'm going to leave you with this, and then we're going to open up for questions. Here's a couple of scary things, and make note of this. And if you kind of practice this and understand this, do a little of your own research and reading, it's going to gel. And now, Frank, we take that insecurity and we're very secure in what we're talking about. We're showing people the Shiller ratio. We're showing them the history of what's happened when the market is overbought. And then understand this. Everybody's heard of the Magnificent Seven, right? Alphabet, Apple, Amazon, Meta, that's Facebook, Microsoft, and NVIDIA and Tesla, believe it or not. If you add their capitalization, remember, that's their stock, outstanding stock times the stock price. If you add their capitalization, it's over 11% of our GDP. So as those companies go, we go. And in addition to that, what about the rise of crypto? Frank, have you ever seen more people buying crypto? No, because it's never had this many people buying crypto. So does crypto take away from the stock market? Yes, right? Pull that scaffolding out, that could crash some of the stock market. How about AI? AI has been the #1 spending initiative of all these companies, especially the Magnificent Seven, but it has yet to yield the revenue. Does that kind of sound like the .com bust? Now, I'm not saying it is. I think AI can be very powerful, very useful, but a lot of spending, Frank, to no guarantee that that translates into multiple of revenue. So look, show clients the Shiller ratio. Show them something smart, something they never heard of, but something that's factual. Tell them what it means. Show them what history shows us and show them where we are at today. And then say, what about the rise of crypto, taking money from that market? Like I say, I always like to say, pull the legs out, pull the scaffolding out. How about AI? A lot of money being spent raising up the valuations of some of these companies. But is it going to turn to revenue and win? And when we are fragile, when 11% of our global domestic product depends on 7 companies, you're really betting on those 7 companies. So what's the solution? I suggest that at your state of your financial life cycle, whether that's pre-retirement, retirement, or late retirement, my suggestion is we protect some of that money. We could allocate a portion of your money and put it into an annuity. Now, whether they use that annuity for guaranteed lifetime income or as a safe bucket that when the market goes down for a year, right, we have one of those come downs off the price per earnings Shiller ratio, they could take money out of that annuity. So either way, however you devise it, it works. And Frank, you always showed me that sign, because here's what we know. If from this point, when we're paying 38 times price per earnings for stocks, the second highest in history, and looking at the history of having those stock markets crash every single time when they get too high, then wouldn't it make sense to put some of your money in an FIA? Because the FIA is going to do one of 3 things, or the market's going to do one of 3 things, right, Frank? You always draw the line. It's going to go up. And if it goes up, great, you get to participate in that. It's going to stay the same. Fine, there is no movement. Or it's going to go down. And if you put your money in an FIA or a portion of your money, you can protect it against what could be a catastrophic drop based on what history has showed us with the Shiller price per earnings ratio. So Frank, I hope you don't think that was too complex, because I believe in agents. I think agents need to know more stuff like this that they can point to bolster their opinion, not just the 101s of annuities, but a little bit more about financial planning in the process.
No, I agree. And it's funny, Sean, I was literally thinking about this in the shower this morning, how I used to train, you know, this one, mortgage protection, all the time. It was like, that's what I was known as. And I would always tell people, if you want you want your clients to trust you, then research and understand how mortgages work, some of the terminology, because the more you sound intelligent, the more your clients likely to trust you. And then I started doing, helping with the annuity stuff a couple of years ago. And I'm like, you don't need to know anything. It's simple. And I was kind of contradicting myself that I trained on all those years, going like, you don't need to know stuff. And I think people it's a slippery slope. You can get to the point where you try and learn everything and then you just don't move. But I agree with you. I think the more information you can share with your clients, the better off you're going to be. It just makes it easier for them to trust you. So this wasn't complicated at all. It's kind of scary if you ask me.
Yeah, it's pretty black and white, but a lot of people don't even think about checking it. Yeah. So shed light on this with your clients, explain them something. Like I said, just bookmark the page and kind of practice the question. You're talking to someone who's 50, 55, heading into retirement. You should ask them, you say, have you ever heard of something called the Shiller PE ratio? And that, you know, oh, that's near rhetorical. Like most people are going to say no. I would love for someone to say yes and say, "Oh, great, explain it to me," right? But yeah, Frank, I'm happy to open up for some questions so we can get it in and out here in an efficient time.
For sure. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to unmute everybody because that would be a disaster. If you have questions for Sean, just there's a way you can raise your hand. I don't know how to do that, but I'm sure people do know, or text in the chat and I will unmute you and let you ask. Here's what I can tell you. When I used to get around these guys, Sean Ruggiero, Sean Mike, like I asked questions for days. Like I could sit and ask questions for 12 hours straight if I didn't feel like they wanted to strangle me. So John, you could have Googled it. All right, let's see. That was awesome. Oh, somebody's got his hand raised. So I would ask as many questions as I could while y'all have him, because we don't have him all the time. We used to, which was beautiful, but now we only have him, sparingly, which is incredible, but not as good as all the time. All right, let me see if I can unmute you. How do I do this? Ask to unmute. Eddie, you should be able to unmute.
Hey, Sean, how's it going, brother?
Good, Eddie. How are you doing? Thanks for being on.
Great. Thanks. So one of my questions is, what materials do you recommend for us to start researching so that we could actually learn how to educate our customers on annuities?
Yeah, honestly, we have a series of annuity videos called the Annuity Minutes, which I think are good. But I think this would be my suggestion. Know what annuities do well and when they are used at the right time. So annuities are not a great accumulation tool. I wouldn't go to a 20-year-old or 30-year-old and say, hey, start putting money into annuity. Know that they're there to help clients prepare for retirement, whether it's by creating a safe bucket of money, so when the market goes down, they can grab some money out of that, or creating a guaranteed lifetime income, right? So pretty much anyone who is over 50 should be considering an annuity for one of those purposes. Now, I'll tell you what, Eddie, if you give Frank your address, I'll mail you a copy of my book, 7 Benefits of FIAs for Retirement. This is all my thoughts in 150 pages. There's also an audio version. You can get it on Apple or on Audible, but I'd be happy to send that to you. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Appreciate you being on. Thank you.
And that book is I don't know where Sean went. I don't know why you're not up here. Let me try and find you. That book is pretty simple. It's a pretty simple read.
Yep.
So you should definitely check that out. Where can you get that? You can get that on Amazon too, can't you, Sean?
Yeah, you can get it in Barnes & Noble, Amazon, whatever. But if you check it out and just read it, it's everything I talk about, and talking about how Social Security works in it. Because to help Eddie's question, it depends on the client. Is their main income Social Security? Well, we really need to protect for when the first spouse dies, the second spouse is going to lose half the Social Security essentially. Well, then we need to backfill that. Other people, they use annuities for different things. They just need a guaranteed pension. Other people, right? And it kind of depends on the scenario, but that's where I go through, like baseball cards. I go through a bunch of different scenarios towards the end, once you understand the basics of the annuities and how to use them. And I'm very neutral. I'll tell you when they're good, when they're bad. I'll tell you how the stock market's good, when the stock market's bad, just so you go in there and you're educated. You're not selling snake oil. You're selling something that's very beneficial for the clients.
Sean, I have a question while y'all think about questions to ask. So the Shiller PE ratio, and talking about history of stock markets and potential downfalls or downsides, how careful do these agents need to be when going over stuff like this, so they don't cross that line of, they don't have the certifications to talk about this? I know people do worry about that. And I know we all should worry about that, because you can't be talking about stuff you shouldn't be talking about, as you're not licensed to do so. But in regards to this, how careful do you need to be?
Yeah, very careful, but don't overkill it. I think John Gavin does a good job with this. So John Gavin will say, hey, listen, I want to make it real clear. I'm not a securities advisor. I'm not going to tell you stocks to pick, stocks to sell, anything like that. But I want to explain to you a concept here. Right? So you literally give a disclaimer. I am not a securities representative. Now, if you are, great, but most people aren't who work with a life-only license. So I'm not a securities advisor. Like you're imprinting that in their brain. I am not going to advise you, nor am I licensed to advise you on stocks to pick, stocks to sell, or any of that. What I want to explain to you is a high-level concept. If you have money in the stock market, and my experience is that the vast majority of people your age have almost all their money exposed to the stock market, then this is what the history of the stock market is when we look at the Shiller PE ratio, which is a great graphic, a great historical chart on what might happen next. In fact, what might probably happen next. And so we can resolve that with an FIA, a fixed index annuity, and that I am licensed to speak about. So does that help, Frank? Because you kind of like, like Matt always used to say, hit them straight up with it. Don't try to walk around it or ignore it. Hit them straight up with it.
Yeah, and I think that's huge. Just like you said, what Gavin does is say it in the beginning. I'm not going to pitch you stocks. I'm not, you know what I mean? That's not what I'm licensed to. But what I am licensed to do is protect your money.
Yeah.
Here are some tools we can do with. What do you do? So how would I combat someone that I show them this, right? And I got to remember the name, the Shiller PE ratio.
Yep.
That goes, well, dude, the economy's awesome. The new president's killing it. Things are looking up. They're talking about lowering, the Fed's talking about lowering the rates, which is going to drive everything good. Like, how do you, and what also, is there like a time frame? Because that graph was from 1869, you said. So it was a lot squeezed in. So, I mean, is there an average point of when it starts to go up to then how long after that it typically bottoms out?
Yeah, and so when you look at that, you can see on the x-axis is the years, and just like when a bear market comes, like I always say, bears attack. It's fast, it's violent. Usually, bull markets take a longer period of time to rise, and bear markets happen very sudden. Okay. So, what I would say to someone who says, "Listen, I'm not buying it. President Trump is doing a great job. The interest rates are going to be cut, and it's just spitballing, right?" And AI is driving the market up. I'd say, yeah, that's quite possible. I'm not trying to subjectively interpret what's going to happen. I'm not Rasputin. I'm not looking in the crystal ball and saying, here's my guess. I am objectively looking at history. And history shows that every time the price per earning ratio, the Shiller price per earning ratio goes up, it comes back down once it hits a high. Now, it'll hit another high, and maybe it does that in 3 years. But if you're getting ready for retirement and you lost 30% of your retirement, how much more do you need to gain back? So listen, I'm only educating you. I have some solutions. My recommendation, Frank, would be let's look seriously at taking a portion of that retirement and protecting it. If I'm right, you protected it and you have money to live off of to weather the storm. If I'm wrong, well, it still goes up. And in fact, we got a product right now that offers a 15% bonus just for transferring over a premium. Right. And then you can talk a little bit about a Farmers or an F&G or an Athene FIA. Right.
I mean, yeah, for sure. And it kind of goes back to one of my favorite lines in insurance sales was, if you knew you were going to die tomorrow, would you do this today? And it's like, if you knew the market was going to crash next week, would you do this today? Yes. Yeah. Do you absolutely 100% sure no, it's not going to? Like, you can't. So I'm with you. I made David and John Gavin co-hosts because I'm not getting many questions, and I know they always have a ton.
I've got a question real quick.
I figured you would.
Yeah. Hey, Sean.
Hey, John.
So, what we're talking about now is sort of why we do what we do as far as providing our clients with annuities, preserving their assets, and that sort of thing. A lot of the people that are on here have not tracked the annuity products for a long time. So they're coming in, they're learning about what the products are today. Can you spend a couple minutes in explaining why, there's never been a better time to provide annuities to our clients because of the strength of the products and where they are today? Because this is not a normal, the way the products are structured today is not your average annuity. It's not normal by most standards. And for those of us who've been in the business for a while, can you go into, because I think the annuity sales have a lot to do with the confidence from the agent in the products and the good that we're doing for our clients and helping them out. Can you spend a couple minutes explaining why the products are so strong today and how they differ from just even a couple years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great point, great question. I can make it very concise. Annuity products with rates at an elevated level, right? Everybody knows that they're trying to fight inflation. So what do? They raised rates dramatically. That is good for annuities. It gives them more yield to work with. So bottom line, in layman terms, annuities have never offered better compensation. Right, John, I've been doing this for 23 years. You've been doing this for about 20 years. We've worked together. You've never seen a bonus of, I mean, there's 20% bonuses up there, not a fake bonus, not an income bonus. There's 20% cash bonuses. I've seen participation rates at 70%, meaning you're getting 70% of the S&P gains. I've seen caps as high as 11.5, 12%, meaning that you'll earn the first 11.5 or 12% of the S&P gain that year with no risk of loss. So the bottom line is, let's think about like equated to something fun and simple like cars. We've never had cars that go this fast. Now's the time to buy one, right? You're going to go faster than ever. So they are high powered, and it has to do with the rates, the overnight federal fund rate that the major banks borrow against, and the SOFR rates are all at the highest that they've been in over 20 years, really almost since the first FIA was invented in 1994, right? And so that's why the time is now.
That's incredible. I do have another question. If you could, and we're getting close, we try to keep this 30.
Yeah, let's launch it at 9:30.
I love when you talk and explain the sequence of returns to folks, because I think as a sales tool, that's probably one of the best you can use when folks are close to retirement. And I don't know if a lot of people use that as much as they should, but it should almost be in my opinion, in every presentation that you do, because it's so important.
Yeah, I agree. And what Frank's getting at is this: what if I'm right and the market does decline 10%, 20%, 30%? It doesn't always have to be this drastic stock market crash. If I have $1 million and it drops by 20%, I now have 800. So now I have to take out what, 5% a year, and then get my 800 to go back to $1 million. That's what you call behind the proverbial 8 ball. So if you are starting out your retirement and the Shiller ratio shows that we're paying 38 times price per earnings, the second highest in history, and every time we reached a high, what happened? It crashed down. I'm just pointing at history. I'm not being subjective, I'm being objective. So if history plays out and if the statistics play out, then you are going to be behind the 8 ball potentially. Worst case, you're not. Well, you didn't lose any money, and I'm offering you a product with a 17% bonus day one that offers you a safe bucket. So maybe in the future that could happen. But you do need to protect against the sequence returns risk, because the worst time to get losses in your retirement is early on. Because if you get too many losses early on, or too severe of a loss early on, you won't recover. And then your retirement plan needs to be selling drugs or dying early, right? Because you really don't have many other choices. I do want to wrap it up on time. I see some people, out there that I definitely want to give not playing favorites or anything like that, but I think I saw Albert, obviously John, thank you for being on. So many people that, Eric, good to see you. Amy, good to see you. I think Dean was on. If I'm missing anyone, I apologize, but yeah, great to see everyone. David Allen, my buddy there. Thank you everyone for being on. And Frank, thank you for, this is my family, right? I always say that this is literally my family. I mean, first time Sean and I were ever doing this, we were sleeping in your kids' bunk beds, with them on the floor of your bedroom, trying to make this happen. So that goes back 2 decades. And
no doubt.
I appreciate you having me on. If anyone has any questions, ping Frank, he can send it to me. I'm here to help agents, because without you all, I don't have a job. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you are the lifeblood. You are the most important part in this whole big engine. So, that don't ever lose sight of that. You are an important part. the most important part. I love you. I appreciate it. And Frank, thanks for having me on, bud.
Appreciate you hopping on, bro. Love you too, homie. Guys, let's have a big week. If you have any questions, you can email me, frank@fflnational.com. Amazon, you can search. If you just type Sean's name in Amazon, the book will pop up. Seven benefits of FIAs. Not in the splits. It's $7.99, $9.99. It's cheap.
It's cheap.
Send me, if the few that, or the guy, who'd you offer to give the book to? Send me your address. I'll get it to Sean. He'll send you the book out. Other than that, make it a big week. We'll see you all on the Builders Call Monday morning. Take care. Thanks again, Sean. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.